The stale air of your office clings to you like a second skin, a testament to countless hours spent in the company of ghosts. Dust motes dance in the weak glow from the solitary desk lamp, catching the light like tiny, forgotten stars. Outside, the city exhales its midnight breath, a low, indifferent hum that barely penetrates the grimy window pane. Your reflection stares back, a stranger carved from cynicism and shadowed regret. Cole Thorne, the name a whisper of what it once was, a title stripped bare and left to rust. It's the kind of quiet that precedes a storm, or perhaps the kind that follows a lingering echo. You've learned to distinguish between them, a grim expertise born from solitude. Then, the shrill, insistent cry of the landline cleaves the stillness. It's an archaic sound in an age of sleek devices, a relic as stubborn as your own resolve. Your hand hovers, a moment of instinctual hesitation. Every call is a potential wound reopened, a fresh reminder of the precipice you inhabit. But habit, or perhaps a flicker of the old hunter, pulls you forward. You lift the receiver, the plastic cool against your ear. Thorne. Your voice is a rasp, unused to the light. There's a situation. The words hang heavy, laced with an urgency that cuts through your weary defenses. Your grip tightens on the receiver, knuckles blanching. Situation? Elaborate or don't waste my time. It's a scene, the detective continues, his voice strained. A tableau. And it's like looking into a rearview mirror, Cole. 5 years ago, the coffee mug feels suddenly heavy, a dead weight. You know what he means, what he must mean. The case that shattered your life, the ghost that still stalks your every waking hour, the killer who walked free, leaving you to carry the burden of his escape. Details, you demand, your voice sharper now, a flint striking steel. High profile, a significant figure in finance. Found, arranged. Exactly the same. The precision, the message. He pauses, and you can almost hear him wrestling with the words, with the specter of the past. And the location. That's what made me call you. Your breath catches, a shard of ice in your throat. The midnight trading floor with dead screens. The words hit you with the force of a physical blow. It's a place steeped in the echoes of ambition and failure, a stage set for a macabre performance. And it's a location that screams of calculation, of a deliberate choice. Why there, you ask, the question a reflex. No forced entry, no alarms tripped, just posed. And the signature, Cole, the exact signature. The detective's voice is thick with an unspoken plea, a desperate hope that you, the disgraced, might still hold a key. The others, they don't see it, or they don't want to see it. But you will. You have to. The city outside hums its indifferent lullaby, but your world just fractured. This isn't just a coincidence. This is a deliberate taunt, a cruel echo from the past, designed to lure you back into a game you thought you'd escaped. It's a challenge, thrown directly at you, Cole Thorne. The killer you failed to catch, the one who ruined your life, is back, and he's signaling you. A tremor of old anger, a spark of the hunter you once were, ignites deep within you. The memory of the frame, the betrayal, the humiliation that followed. It all floods back, fresh and raw. You were a pawn, sacrificed to protect a system that cared more about reputation than justice. But this is different. Photos, forensics, every damn thing they have. Cole, you know what this means, the detective warns, a note of caution in his voice. They'll be watching you. They won't want you anywhere near this. Let them watch, you retort, a grim smile touching your lips. The bitter taste of revenge, long suppressed, now rises in your throat. This isn't just their case anymore. It's A perfect stage for a killer who delights in symbolism, a killer who knows exactly how to get under your skin. And now you realize. He has. You stand, moving towards the window. The city lights stretch out before you, a glittering tapestry of indifference. But tonight, you see beyond the facade. This is about preventing more deaths. This is about facing the monster you allowed to escape. And this time, Cole Thorne, you won't fail. The game has begun again. The receiver, a cold, black relic, rests heavily in its cradle, a finality that rings louder than any spoken word. You stand in the hush of your office, the streetlights outside casting long, skeletal shadows through the blinds. The forgotten coffee, a bitter sediment now, mocks your stillness. It's a familiar pull, the scent of the hunt, the promise of a labyrinth you barely survived once. The decision, a bitter pill, dissolves on your tongue. Reluctance is a luxury you can no longer afford. You grab your worn leather jacket, the familiar weight a small comfort, and step out into the crisp night air. The city, a sprawling beast, breathes around you, indifferent to the personal war brewing within your chest. The journey is a blur of streetlights and the low hum of your engine, each mile drawing you closer to the precipice. You navigate the labyrinthine streets, the city's concrete canyons rising around you like silent sentinels. This is it. This is where the past bleeds into the present. Rows upon rows of monitors, once ablaze with flashing numbers and frantic charts, now gaze blankly into the gloom, their dead screens reflecting the distant, muted glow of the city. Each step you take echoes, a stark declaration of your presence in this sacrosanct scene. A figure detaches from a cluster of uniforms near the center of the floor, moving towards you with an air of practiced authority. It's the lead detective, a man whose face carries the permanent imprint of too many late nights and too little sleep. His gaze, when it meets yours, is a carefully constructed wall of professional disdain. Cole Thorne, the detective states, the name a blunt instrument in his mouth. Didn't expect you to actually show. A call came in. You reply, your voice a low rumble, devoid of inflection. Said you needed eyes. He scoffs, a brief, sharp sound. We have eyes, Thorne, plenty of them. Just not the kind that tamper with evidence. The barb lands, precise and expected. It always does. 5 years have not dulled the sting, nor the memory of the frame that shattered your career. He was found by a night cleaner. Single stab wound, clean. No forced entry. Looks like an inside job or someone with access. You walk slowly towards the tableau, your senses heightened, every nerve alive. The air grows heavier, the metallic tang more distinct. As you approach, the scene solidifies, crystallizes into a horrifying familiarity. The victim lies sprawled across a large, circular trading desk, amidst a scattering of abandoned energy drink cans and crumpled printouts. But it's not the body that snags your breath, not the silent horror of the death itself. It's the arrangement. There, precisely positioned beside the victim's outstretched hand, is a small, ornate compass, its brass casing gleaming dully under the forensic lights. Your breath catches. The world narrows, the hushed voices of the other officers fading into an indistinct hum. This is the reveal, the compass, the origami crane. Your gaze locks onto the detectives. Suspicion crosses his face. He sees your reaction. He sees the recognition in your eyes. Recognize something, Thorne? He asks, his voice laced with an unwelcome challenge. The compass, always pointing due north. The crane, a symbol of hope, twisted into a macabre calling card. The exact same ritual. The same meticulous theatrical staging. It's not just a coincidence. It's a deliberate, calculated taunt. A message, crafted specifically for you. The air around you seems to crackle with an unspoken understanding. The killer isn't just back, He's calling you out. He wants you to see this. He wants you to play. The reluctance that gnawed at you moments ago solidifies into grim resolve. He knows, even if he doesn't want to admit it, that you see something he doesn't. Or perhaps something he can't afford to see. You feel the pull of the labyrinth, stronger than ever, dragging you deeper. The game has begun, and you, Cole Thorne, are the chosen player. The city's pulse, a distant hum, recedes as you step through the broken service door. Here, where fortunes once swelled and crashed in a digital blink, now reigns an absolute stillness, broken only by the crunch of your souls on scattered detritus. The scent of stale coffee and forgotten dreams mingles with something sharper, something metallic and final. This cavernous space, once a crucible of high-stakes decisions, now feels like an archaeological dig of the recent past, the air heavy with an unspoken eulogy. Your gaze sweeps across the silent expanse, determined, dissecting. The official perimeter tape, a garish yellow ribbon, marks a stark line across the floor. But your eyes glide past it, seeking the nuances, the almost imperceptible fractures in the scene. A forensics tech, a silhouette against a far-off flickering work light, kneels beside a huddle of evidence markers. The lead investigator, a figure of rigid authority, stands with arms crossed, observing. He senses your presence, a prickle in the oppressive quiet, before he even turns. Thorne, the lead investigator's voice cuts through the silence, flat and devoid of warmth. You're late for the private tour. He doesn't move, his posture a wall of professional disdain. You ignore the barb, your focus already on the details. The victim, sprawled amidst the detritus of a dead desk, is a tableau of grim precision. Not a struggle, not a random act of violence. This is a message, etched into the very fabric of the scene. The manner of death, the careful placement, the deliberate staging. It all screams of a familiar, insidious signature. The past, a phantom limb, aches with recognition. Just observing, you reply, your voice a low rasp, eyes still scanning the periphery. You note the absence of a struggle, the lack of overturned chairs, the neatness of the surrounding area despite the overall decay of the floor. It's too clean, too composed. Complicated, you know the rules. Rules change, or they break. You retort, your gaze now fixed on a small, almost invisible detail near the victim's hand. A glint, an incongruous spark in the dull environment. A shard of something, not glass, not metal. It catches the moonlight, reflecting a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer. The lead investigator stops a few paces from you, blocking your path to the central evidence. Your rules, maybe, not ours. We have a procedure, a protocol. This isn't your personal crusade. Every death is personal, you counter, your eyes narrowed, trying to decipher the glint. It's embedded in the aged laminate of the desk, a tiny, almost crystalline fragment. A uniformed officer, younger, less assured, steps between you and the lead investigator, his hand resting on the holster of his sidearm. Sir, perhaps it's best if you wait outside. We can brief your office later. The words are polite, but the intent is clear. Resistance. There's nothing to brief, you state, your voice unwavering, your gaze still locked on that minute detail. You take a step back, not in retreat, but to gain a different angle, to allow your mind to process the fragments of the scene. The shard, that peculiar glint. It's not from the victim, not from the room. It's an anomaly. This isn't your case, Thorne. The lead investigator insists, his patience visibly fraying. You lost that privilege 5 years ago. Now I suggest you leave before I make it official. The words sting. A raw wound reopened, but they only fuel your resolve. The glint, the shard, it resonates with a detail from the unsolved case. A tiny, almost dismissed piece of evidence that had always bothered you. A unique, almost artistic material, not readily available, not easily identifiable. You meet the lead investigator's eyes, a challenge in your own. Something important. He scoffs, a dismissive sound. We're missing nothing. We're following the evidence. Unlike some. The implication hangs heavy in the air, a shadow of your past disgrace. But you are beyond caring for their judgments. The labyrinth has opened its maw, and this shimmering shard is the first thread pulling you deeper. It's a calculated echo, a deliberate taunt, a game set for you alone. The game has begun, and you, Cole, are already a player, whether they want you to be or not. The city exhales a frigid breath, a whisper against your skin as you navigate the skeletal streets. Determination hardens your jaw, a stark counterpoint to the raw ache that still gnaws at your periphery. The shimmering shard, the cryptic message from the first chapter, has become a compass needle, pointing you towards an old wound, a place where fortunes were made and unmade, where shadows clung to wealth like a second skin. Your informant, a former colleague from the city's digital forensics division, now a ghost in the machine of corporate data recovery, had sent a terse message. Viridian Capital. Old HQ. Access granted. It was a titan that fell 5 years ago. Its collapse a ripple that touched countless lives, including, you now suspect, the lives of the dead. You stand before the edifice, a monolithic tomb of glass and steel, its once proud facade now streaked with grime, its grand entrance boarded over. Your small flashlight cuts a trembling path through the gloom, illuminating skeletal office cubicles, their chairs overturned, monitors gaping like empty eyes. The infrastructure, once vibrant with the hum of commerce, is now a mausoleum. Each step down feels like a descent into the past, into the very heart of the labyrinth you've been forced to re-enter. It stretches before you, an expanse of desolation. The vast panoramic screens that once flickered with market data, stock tickers, and breaking news are now obsidian mirrors, reflecting your solitary figure, a phantom in a forgotten empire. You move through the spectral landscape, your gaze sweeping over the silent workstations. This place, once a crucible of high-stakes decisions, now holds only ghosts. The colleagues' instructions were precise. The old server room, tucked away behind the executive suites, beneath the main floor. You find the hidden access panel, its lock mechanism a stubborn beast. But your tools, honed by years of illicit entry, make short work of it. Rows of server racks stand like silent sentinels, their indicator lights long extinguished. You connect your portable interface, a sleek black rectangle humming with quiet purpose, to a designated port. The boot sequence on your screen glows green, a stark contrast to the surrounding decay. The data streams, a torrent of binary code, begin to flow. Hours bleed into each other, marked only by the dwindling charge of your device and the growing ache in your neck. You sift through layers of encrypted archives, defunct projects, and discarded financial reports. The new victim, the analyst from the previous chapter, was digging into Viridian Capital's collapse, specifically a series of high-risk off-book investments. Your colleague had flagged her digital footprint, a faint trail leading back to this very data. And then you find it. Not in the main financial ledgers, which are scrubbed clean, but buried deep within a forgotten internal project folder, labeled only Project Chimera. It's a subdirectory, a digital vault within a vault, its access logs purged years ago. You crack the encryption, the algorithm yielding to your persistent attack, revealing a spreadsheet. The screen flickers, illuminating your face in its pale digital glow. The spreadsheet is a participant list, not of investors, but of internal project members. Your finger traces down the list. The new victim's name, clear as day, is there. Below it, one after another, are the names of all 4 victims from your original career-ending case. The serial killer's victims. They were not random. They were not unconnected. They were all part of Project Chimera. This isn't a copycat. This is a continuation. The original murders, the tampering of evidence that framed you, it was all to bury this, to bury Project Chimera and its participants. And now, 5 years later, someone is finishing the job. Or perhaps, someone is sending a message. To you. The game is far larger, far more intricate than you had dared to imagine. You are not merely hunting a killer. You are unraveling a conspiracy, one that stretches back to the very foundation of your disgrace. You are a threat. The city's exhale, once a mere whisper, now feels like a cold hand pressing against your back, urging you forward. The shimmering shard, clutched tight in your palm, pulses with a faint internal luminescence, a silent beacon in the urban gloom. It led you here, to the monolithic glass and steel edifice that looms against the bruised canvas of the night sky. The air, thick with the phantom scent of ambition and stale coffee, bites with an icy precision as you slip through a service entrance, the lock a mere suggestion against your practiced hand. You navigate a labyrinth of darkened corridors, each step a muffled echo in the profound silence. The air here is heavier, laden with the ghosts of shouted commands and the phantom thrum of data streams. Your gaze sweeps across the silent terminals, seeking the anomaly, the subtle deviation the shard hinted at. The cryptic message, a sequence of numbers and symbols, now clarifies itself as a grid coordinate, pointing not to a physical location, but to a specific workstation. You move with purpose, your boots a soft scuff against the polished floor. You reach the designated terminal, its screen as dead and black as all the others. A small, almost imperceptible latch. Your nail finds purchase, and a hidden panel clicks open, revealing not wires, but a narrow, concealed compartment. Inside, nestled amongst a tangle of forgotten cables, lies a sleek, unmarked USB drive. This isn't a random drop. This is deliberate, precise. The data loads quickly, a torrent of encrypted files. Not large sums, but numerous intricate transfers between shell corporations, all ultimately tracing back to a single, obscure holding company. These aren't the random, opportunistic dealings of a lone killer. This is organized. Then, a second file unlocks. This one is different. Mentions of the package and the cleanup crew pepper the entries, dated 5 years ago, coinciding precisely with the time you were framed. And then, a recent entry, mere days old. Thorne is stirring. Initiate Phase 2. Your breath catches, a ragged gasp in the frigid air. Phase 2. It's about you. The new killing isn't a taunt. It's a re-engagement, a reactivation of a deeper, more insidious plot. Ensure his silence. The words burn into your mind, a brand of irrefutable proof. The Architect. You remember a particular nickname whispered in the hushed corners of the precinct, a moniker for the former chief, a man whose career had soared after your fall, a man who always seemed to be 3 steps ahead, orchestrating events from the periphery, and the Enforcer, the lead prosecutor on your case, whose relentless pursuit of your conviction was legendary. The pieces slam into place with the force of a physical blow. The intricate financial web, the coded communications, the precise timing of both your framing and this new murder, it all coalesces into a horrifying mosaic. This is a carefully constructed conspiracy, a network of corrupted influence that reaches far beyond the street-level violence. Those who framed you, those who stood to gain from your destruction, are directly implicated. They didn't just let a killer walk free, they engineered it. A wave of righteous, unyielding anger washes over you, purging the last vestiges of self-doubt. The determination that had been a flicker now blazes into an inferno. This is about dismantling a rot that permeates the very foundations of justice. A rot you've just confirmed is anchored by the same hands that shattered your life. You swiftly transfer the data to a secure, encrypted cloud, then wipe the USB drive clean, leaving no trace. The dead screens of the trading floor offer no judgment, no pity. They simply reflect the hardened resolve now etched onto your face. And this time, you know exactly who your enemies are. You accept it, the weight of the conspiracy a heavy yet galvanizing presence. The hunt has begun anew, and this time, you are the predator, the architect. The name hangs in the air, a silent accusation. You remember the man, a polished marble statue of ambition, always just out of reach, always just beyond scrutiny. His rise, your plummet. The symmetry of it, a bitter masterpiece. The thought curdles in your gut, a mix of cold dread and a burning righteous fury. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a blueprint. A calculated dismantling, then a meticulous reconstruction, 5 years later, of the very elements that had shattered your life. The system, you know, is a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. To walk through its front door, asking questions about its former chief, would be an exercise in futility, a self-immolation. So, you will not ask, you will take, you will unearth. Your determination, a flint striking steel, ignites a singular purpose. The rules that once constrained you, the protocols that once defined you, they are ash. You are off the leash, a predator scenting a familiar, dangerous prey. A name surfaces from the digital detritus. The Vault, an unofficial moniker for an abandoned data hub, a place where the city's financial titans once danced their intricate waltz of numbers. It's a long shot, a needle in a haystack of discarded information, but it's a thread, and you pull. The address leads you to the skeletal remains of a building on the city's forgotten edge, a monument to a collapsed empire. Rows of ergonomic chairs stand empty, like silent mourners. The air conditioning hums faintly, a ghost of its former purpose, pushing stale, cold air around the vast room. This is where fortunes were made and lost, where data flowed like a river, and where, perhaps, secrets were buried. You navigate the maze of cubicles, your flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, painting transient patterns on the dusty keyboards and abandoned coffee mugs. Your fingers trace the cool, smooth surfaces of the dormant terminals, searching for an anomaly, a sign. You recall the architect's penchant for analog backups, a quaint habit in a digital age, but one that might prove invaluable now. You search for a specific server rack, one rumored to have been a private, unsecured vault for sensitive off-book transactions. Deep in a neglected corner, behind a false wall disguised as a utility panel, you find it. An archaic server, humming faintly, a lone survivor in this digital cemetery. Its indicator light glows a sickly green. Your fingers, steady despite the adrenaline coursing through you, connect your portable drive. You bypass its rudimentary security, a relic of a bygone era, and begin the arduous download. The progress bar crawls, each percentage a beat of your own accelerated pulse. Then, the data begins to flow. Your eyes scan the scrolling text, recognizing the timestamps. They align with the period of your framing. The names, though coded, are recognizable by their associated transactions and the roles they played in your downfall. Accounts that, with a jolt of ice in your veins, you realize are connected to the recent victims. As the final bytes transfer, a faint, almost imperceptible click echoes from across the vast room. It's not a natural sound. It's too precise, too deliberate. You freeze, every instinct screaming danger. You were not alone. You were never alone. This wasn't just a discovery. It was an invitation, a lure. You have the proof, yes, but you have also walked into their sightline. You are no longer merely investigating. You are hunted. The architect. The name echoes, a hollow chime in the vault of your memory. It is a whisper of ruin, a blueprint of your downfall. You recall the glint in his eye, the precision in his movements, a man who saw the world as a grand calculation, and you, merely an error to be corrected. Your steps are silent, a predator's careful tread through the city's hushed arteries. The air bites with the promise of frost, each exhale a momentary cloud, a visible manifestation of your simmering fury. The address, scrawled on a forgotten receipt, leads you to the monolithic shell of a financial institution, its glass facade reflecting the bruised purple of the pre-dawn sky, a place of forgotten fortunes, of ambition's last gasp. You find your way in, a phantom key turning a phantom lock, your movements practiced, born of necessity and years spent navigating the city's underbelly. The elevator, a relic of bustling days, grinds its way upwards, carrying you to the heart of the dormant beast. Their lifeless surfaces are coated in a fine, almost imperceptible dust, a testament to their abandonment. Cables snake across the floor like petrified vines, connecting nothing to nowhere. The air hangs heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and stale ambition, a metallic tang that catches at the back of your throat. Then you see him. He flinches as your presence registers, his shoulders tightening, a visible tremor running through his frame. He had been a whisper in the periphery of your old case, a name mentioned in hushed tones, always linked to the architect's rising empire. You knew this place would be quiet, you state, your voice cutting through the stillness like a serrated blade. A good place to hide, to be found. He turns slowly, his face etched with a desperate weariness, the lines around his eyes deeper than you remembered. Cole Thorne, still chasing ghosts, I see. His voice is reedy, thin. Some things are better left buried. Some things refuse to stay down. You counter, closing the distance between you, each step deliberate, menacing. Like the truth, like the architect, and like the bodies that keep piling up. You watch his eyes, searching for the flicker of recognition, the telltale shift. The new murders, they bear his signature, the same calculated cruelty, the same message. The former analyst swallows hard, his gaze darting around the dead screens as if seeking an escape route. You're mistaken, he's untouchable. A ghost now, even to those who once served him. Untouchable? You scoff, a dry, bitter sound? Or just good at making others take the fall? You saw what he did to me. You saw the evidence tampered with, the files altered. You were there, weren't you? That's why you're still alive. You were part of the design, the catalyst. The design? You press, your jaw tight. What design? What is he building? He hesitates, glancing over his shoulder, a genuine fear flashing in his eyes. He calls it the Great Correction, a cleansing. He believes the city, its institutions, its very foundations are corrupt. He sees himself as the architect of a new order. The old victims, the new ones. They are all chosen. Not for random malice, but for their symbolic flaws. Your fall was meant to highlight the rot, to show how easily a good man could be broken, how easily truth could be warped. He wanted you to witness the decay, to understand the necessity of his vision. The architect didn't just frame you, he assigned you a role in his horrifying tableau. A spectator to his masterpiece. It's too sharp, too precise for the derelict equipment. Not yours, not the former analyst's. Someone else is here. Tell them he's building a monument of ruin. Tell them to look for the patterns, the connections. He leaves clues, always. He wants his work understood. You grab his arm, a desperate urge to pull him to safety, but he shakes you off, his gaze pleading. It's too late for me, Cole. But you're still part of his design. You have to break it. The footsteps grow louder, closer. The dead screens reflect a new, menacing silhouette, larger, more deliberate than the former analysts. You make a split-second decision. To stay is to be caught. To lose the very information you've just gained. To leave is to abandon him to his fate, a bitter taste in your mouth. The footsteps surge, a thunderclap in the muted chamber. The new silhouette, thick and deliberate, fills the reflective surface of a dormant monitor, eclipsing the former analyst's frantic, desperate form. You make the choice. The fraction of a second you gain is a lifeline. Your hand snatches the small, encrypted drive from his grasp, the one he'd pointed to with such urgency. Then you are moving, a phantom in the low-lit labyrinth. You weave between deserted desks, past the silent monitors that once pulsed with global markets, now merely obsidian mirrors reflecting your hurried flight. The heavy thud of the pursuer's steps grows louder, then recedes as you duck behind a server rack, the hum of its cooling fans a deceptive lullaby. Your breath hitches, sharp and cold in your lungs. The information is yours, but at what cost? You burst through a fire exit, the sudden blast of cool night air a shock against your skin, and melt into the city's unseen veins. Finding a secluded alcove beneath the skeletal girders of an unfinished overpass, you retrieve a battered laptop from your bag. The drive slots in with a soft click. The data unfurls, a tangled skein of shell corporations, obscure trusts, and transactions masked by layers of digital misdirection. A pattern emerges, subtle at first, then stark. This company, cloaked in layers of legal obscurity, consistently targeted properties in a forgotten district, a decaying stretch of the city slated for eventual redevelopment. The victims from your old case, not just random targets of a madman, but landowners, community organizers, vocal opponents of the proposed urban renewal. They were obstacles, the new murder. It fits. The victim, a respected historian, had recently published an exposé on the city's historical land use, inadvertently highlighting the very properties acquired by this shell company. The serial killer wasn't merely a deranged monster. He was a tool, a terrifying instrument of coercion. The murders instilled fear, driving down property values, forcing sales, clearing the path for acquisition. The holding company funnels its profits into a larger entity, a powerful consortium with a gleaming public face. And at the apex of this consortium, a name begins to surface. A familiar name, one whispered in hushed tones in the city's corridors of power. The city developer. The architect of this grand, macabre design. Your framing, the evidence tampering that ruined you, was not just about silencing a troublesome detective. It was about eliminating an investigator who was unknowingly unraveling the financial underbelly of a vast predatory scheme. You weren't just chasing a killer, you were stumbling into the path of a titan, a puppeteer pulling strings that reached into the city's highest offices. The new murder isn't just a taunt, it's a final, brutal push. The pieces lock into place with a sickening precision. The serial killer, the framing, the new murder, all are calculated movements in a deadly symphony orchestrated by the city developer to consolidate power and wealth. Your old foe, the one you believed was a lone psychopath, was merely a shadow cast by a far more dangerous entity. The game is no longer about clearing your name alone. It's about exposing a rot that runs deeper than you ever imagined. About stopping the city developer before more lives are sacrificed on the altar of ambition. You know who you hunt, and you will not fail again. The cacophony of their fall is swallowed by the vast echoing space, leaving only the soft hum of residual power. Then, silence. Thick and suffocating settles like dust. It is the orchestrator undeniably. No sudden movement, no overt threat, just a stillness that speaks of absolute control. Your gaze traces the sharp line of their tailored suit, the glint of expensive cufflinks, the meticulous part in their hair, a veneer of order over an abyss of corruption. This face, once a distant, untouchable entity in the periphery of your ruined career, now stands manifest. Cole Thorne, their voice, a smooth, unhurried baritone, cuts through the tension. Always the predictable variable. Always the inconvenient truth. A faint smile, devoid of warmth, plays on their lips. Did you truly believe your ghost would remain buried? The dead screens around you shimmer, reflecting the faint emergency lights, painting the scene in hues of bruised purple and sickly green. The air is heavy with the scent of ozone and stale ambition. To me, the orchestrator's smile widens fractionally. A siren song, perhaps, to lure the moth back to the flame. After all, who else would understand the artistry? The signature, so exquisitely rendered, so perfectly reminiscent of your past failure. They gesture vaguely towards the rows of inert terminals. This grand stage, Cole, is where the final act unfolds. Where your name is not merely cleared, but erased. Where the inconvenient truths of my enterprise are permanently redacted. A low whirring begins, a mechanical sigh from the heart of the trading floor. One of the dead screens, then another, flickers with a ghostly luminescence, not of data, but of pure, raw energy. A countdown timer, stark and red, blooms on a central monitor. 3 minutes, a financial cleansing. All the loose ends, all the inconvenient records, all the lingering doubts about my past transactions, erased. A phantom market crash, perfectly engineered, will bury every trace. Not with a rush, but with the fluid grace of a predator. The executioner. You recognize the subtle sway of their shoulders, the way their head tilts, an echo of a posture you dismissed years ago as mere eccentricities. A former security consultant, once a fleeting contact in the initial stages of your doomed investigation, now revealed as the methodical hand behind the mayhem. A minor player, a background detail, but he was my loyal instrument. My brush, painting the canvas of your disgrace. The subsequent ones? To draw you out, to make you dance to my tune one last time. The executioner takes a step forward, a heavy wrench appearing in their gloved hand, its metal glinting ominously under the emergency lights. The timer ticks relentlessly. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. You framed me, you accuse. The words sharp, cutting through the orchestrator's smug pronouncements. You used him to plant the evidence, to make it look like I tampered with the scene. Precisely. The orchestrator concedes, a hint of pride in their voice. A masterstroke of misdirection. The perfect scapegoat. Who would believe a disgraced detective over the integrity of the institution he supposedly served? It bought me 5 years. 5 years to consolidate power, to weave this intricate web, and now, to sever it cleanly. The executioner moves with a silent, deadly purpose, circling wide, aiming to cut off your escape. The orchestrator, meanwhile, approaches a central console, a single glowing terminal amidst the dead screens. The hum of the system intensifies, a rising crescendo of impending doom. You won't get away with it, you snarl, your eyes darting between the approaching executioner and the orchestrator's poised hand. The catastrophic event, a digital apocalypse, is seconds away. The orchestrator laughs, a dry, mirthless sound. Who will stop me, Cole? The system you fought against? The system I control? Your name will be synonymous with this collapse. The final damning evidence of your incompetence and corruption. The timer flashes. 1 minute, 45 seconds. You see your chance, a fleeting opening. The analyst, still dazed and tangled by the idle servers, is a distraction. The executioner is focused on you, not the periphery. The orchestrator is confident, consumed by their victory lap. Your gaze snaps to a thick bundle of fiber optic cables snaking beneath the central console, an artery feeding the beast. A desperate gamble. A single, decisive action. You surge forward, not towards the orchestrator, but directly at the executioner, feigning a direct attack. The executioner raises the wrench, preparing to strike, but your true target is lower. Your hand shoots out, not to grapple, but to grab the executioner's ankle, twisting with all your might. They stumble, a grunt of surprise escaping their lips, the wrench clattering against the floor. The momentary diversion is enough. You scramble to your feet, bypassing the stunned executioner, launching yourself towards the console. The orchestrator, startled by your unexpected move, shouts a command to the executioner, but it's too late. Your fingers, fueled by adrenaline and years of repressed fury, find the thickest bundle of cables. You yank, a desperate, violent tear. The connection snaps with a sharp, audible crack. The synchronized pulsing of the dead screen ceases. The timer on the central monitor freezes. E00123. The orchestrator lets out a guttural roar of frustration, their hand frozen inches from the buttons. The executioner, recovering from their stumble, lunges. But the immediate threat, the catastrophic event, has been averted. The truth, for now, is safe from erasure. You have faced them, Cole, and for this moment, you have won. The timer's final digits blurred, a countdown to oblivion. 1 minute, 23 seconds. The analyst, still a tangle of limbs and wires amidst the server racks, let out a strangled cry as you lunged. Not for him, but for the exposed port, a sliver of opportunity in the digital maelstrom. Your fingers, calloused from years of gripping cold steel and colder truths, moved with a hunter's precision, snatching the small, cool rectangle of the encrypted data chip from its slot just as the timer dissolved into a zero, an absolute void. A concussive thrum shook the very floor beneath you. The faint, synchronized rhythm of the pulsing screens around you ceased, replaced by a profound, dead silence. The analyst, now fully aware and scrambling, roared your name, a guttural sound of fury and betrayal. No time for pleasantries, no time for explanations. The chip was a burning ember in your palm, a promise of revelation. You moved, a blur of purpose and desperation, vaulting over a fallen chair, weaving through the silent terminals. The analyst, surprisingly agile in his rage, was on your heels, his heavy breathing a harsh counterpoint to your own measured gasps. You heard the distant wail of an alarm, a rising shriek that tore through the sudden quiet, signaling the arrival of the inevitable. A security door, heavy and reinforced, loomed ahead. You threw your weight against the crash bar, the metal groaning in protest. Freedom, or at least a temporary reprieve, lay beyond. The analyst, a man possessed, was closer now, his hand outstretched, grasping for the back of your jacket. You twisted, a practiced maneuver from a life lived on the knife edge, and felt the fabric tear. But you were through. The door slammed shut behind you with a resonant clang, severing the chase momentarily. The chip was clutched tight, its presence a small, hard weight of consequence. You had what you came for. Now, you needed to understand it. The single desk lamp cast a stark circle of light, illuminating the worn wood and the scattered files of forgotten cases. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and old paper. The encrypted chip, now nestled in a port on your custom-built terminal, glowed faintly. Your fingers danced across the keyboard, a complex symphony of commands and decryption protocols. The initial layers peeled away, lines of code dissolving into legible data. This wasn't just data. This was a ledger, a record, a confession whispered in binary. The screen flickered, then settled. Rows of transactions, dates, and alphanumeric codes filled the display. Not just financial figures, but encrypted communications, cross-referenced with internal project identifiers. Your eyes scanned, searching for a pattern, a name, a ghost from the past. And then, it appeared. A project code, Aurora 7, linked to a series of unusually large, untraceable transfers. And beneath it, a string of names. Not the faces you remembered from your past investigation, not the low-level operatives. These were different, higher. One name, in particular, made your breath catch. A senior executive, long believed to be untouchable, a pillar of the very institution that had orchestrated your downfall. The same institution that had dismissed your claims of evidence tampering as the ramblings of a desperate man. The reveal was a slow burn, not a sudden flash. The serial killer, the one who walked free, was merely a pawn, a convenient smokescreen to distract from a far grander, more insidious scheme. The evidence tampering, your ruined career, it had all been a consequence of stumbling too close to Aurora 7. The tension in the room thickened, a palpable weight. You leaned back, the leather of your chair creaking under the sudden shift. The determined set of your jaw hardened. The stakes had just escalated beyond anything you had imagined. The immediate fallout from your raid on the midnight trading floor with dead screens was merely the first tremor. The earthquake was yet to come. You had the proof, a fragment of the truth, but holding it was like grasping a live wire. The path ahead was clear and infinitely more dangerous. You were no longer just a disgraced detective. You were a threat to a deeply entrenched conspiracy, and they would know you were coming. The timer's final digits blurred, a countdown to oblivion. 1 minute, 23 seconds. Your fingers, raw and aching, jammed the corrupted drive home, a desperate act of digital CPR. The screen flickered, a cascade of green text replacing the furious red. A siren, faint at first, then growing, wailed in the distance. A sigh escaped you, a ragged whisper of triumph and exhaustion. The analyst sagged, defeated, his frantic energy drained. You secured the drive, its cold metal a promise in your palm. The screens, once vibrant with the pulse of global markets, now reflected only the pale, nascent light filtering through the high windows, a spectral dawn. A fitting end, Cole. The voice, calm and unhurried, sliced through the quiet. It belonged to the chief strategist, emerging from the deeper shadows between the banks of dead monitors, a silhouette against the city's awakening glow. Made you predictable. You gripped the drive tighter, the weight of 5 years pressing down. You orchestrated it all, didn't you? The frame, the first killer, the new murders, all of it. He offered a slight dismissive shrug. Necessary adjustments. The original killer was useful, a distraction. Your reputation, Cole, was a convenient sacrifice. You saw too much, asked too many questions about certain irregularities in our market models. We couldn't have you digging where you shouldn't. The pieces, long scattered and obscured by doubt, now snapped into place with sickening clarity. The evidence tampering, the specific details that had ruined you, the way the new murders mirrored the old, designed to pull you back into the web. It wasn't just about silencing you. It was about discrediting anyone who might have listened to you. The new victims were not random. A shame you aimed it at the wrong targets. You could have been quite valuable, Cole, if you'd only understood the bigger picture. The bigger picture. The systemic corruption, the illicit dealings masked by financial jargon, the lives crushed beneath the weight of engineered chaos. Your downfall was a small price to pay for their continued prosperity. It wasn't personal, not truly. You were just a variable, a glitch in their matrix, and they had simply debugged you. Footsteps echoed from the entrance, closer now, accompanied by the distinct chatter of police radios. The siren had arrived. The chief strategist's eyes flickered towards the sound. His composure remained unblemished. "It appears your reinforcements have arrived," he said, his voice devoid of panic. "I trust you have your proof." "Enough," you replied, holding up the drive. "Enough to unravel your entire operation." The lead detective, a familiar face from your past, appeared first, his expression a mixture of grim determination and professional relief. He took in the scene. The subdued analyst, the chief strategist standing calmly, and you, holding the undeniable truth in your hand. Cole, the detective acknowledged, his gaze lingering on the chief strategist, then on the drive. You found it. You simply nodded, handing over the drive. The weight lifted, not entirely, but enough to breathe again. The chief strategist offered no resistance as he was taken into custody, his eyes meeting yours one last time, a ghost of a challenge in their depths. The game was over, but the score remained unsettled. Hours later, the sun fully risen, you walked out into the crisp morning air. The city hummed with the indifferent rhythm of life. 5 years, a career, a reputation, lives lost all for the machinations of power and greed. You paused by the river, watching the light dance on the water. The demons that haunted you, the guilt, the self-doubt, they hadn't vanished. They were etched into your soul, scars that would forever remind you of the cost of truth. But something else had settled within you, a quiet resolve. The world hadn't stopped being corrupt, nor had it become a safer place. Yet you had proven that even a single broken individual could still fight, could still make a difference. The cynicism remained, a protective shell, but beneath it, a flicker of purpose rekindled. Not a return to the old life, but a new path, forged in the crucible of your own ruin. The uneasy peace you sought wasn't an absence of conflict, but the quiet strength to face the next one, head on. The hunt was over, but the watch had just begun.